Alien girl accepted death with honor, until human hands slammed the door shut. The escape pod's klaxon screamed, a dying whale song, as Kale slammed his fist against the failing primary thruster override. Useless. He was a smuggler, not a goddamn mechanic, and the vagabond was shedding parts like a cheap suit in a stellar wind. His last run, a haul of illicit synth narcotics, had gone sideways faster than a drunk slaver ship, leaving him scrambling for anything with a re-entry shield. He'd found this barely space-worthy pod, and now he was plunging towards a dead rock world, one of those god-forsaken magnetic deserts where ancient alien relics were rumored to hum with forgotten power. The sand-blasted rock below rushed up, a red smear against the black void, and Kyle braced, teeth gritted for the inevitable impact. The crash was less impact, more pulverizing, grinding screech. Metal shrieked, lights exploded. He tasted blood and dust. When the ringing in his ears faded, a new sound emerged. The low, guttural growl of something powerful, something aware. His comms were slag. His sidearm was bent rebar. All he had left was his wits, and a healthy dose of pure, unadulterated terror. He pushed himself free of the mangled console, every joint protesting, and stumbled out into the twilight. A brutal landscape of jagged, iron-rich spires rose around him, catching the faint, dying light of a distant, unseen sun. And then he saw her. She stood on a nearby dune, silhouetted against the magnetic dust storm that began to whip up. Tall, impossibly lean, yet powerfully muscled. Her form was other, like carved obsidian and living light. He couldn't quite make out details in the swirling grit, but her posture screamed predator, an apex hunter. His gut twisted. Well, shit, he muttered, coughing dust. Just my goddamn luck. Her head tilted, a fluid, unnatural motion. She didn't respond, just began to descend the dune, each step deliberate, predatory. He could feel the raw power radiating off her, a primal thrum that vibrated in his very bones. This wasn't some lost explorer. This was the top of the food chain, and he was the worm. He gripped the hilt of a broken control stick, the only thing he had, and cursed his life choices. The air crackled around her as she drew closer, a strange, low hum accompanying her movements. He saw glimpses of iridescent scales on her exposed limbs, catching the faint light like scattered jewels, and eyes that glowed with an internal crystalline fire. They fixed on him, cold and assessing. His heart hammered. "All right, alien," he rasped. "Let's talk. I'm just passing through my ship's junk. No threats, no loot, just a guy having a really bad day." She stopped a dozen feet away, and the wind, previously howling, seemed to fall silent. She was breathtaking and terrifying. Her lips, etched with strange ritualistic patterns, parted slightly. A deep, resonant voice like tectonic plates shifting filled the air. A male, unmarked, unclaimed. "You trespass on sacred ground." He blinked. Sacred ground. Look, lady, my maps didn't mention no sacred ground. Just uninhabited rock, high magnetic interference. Big difference. Her eyes narrowed, the internal glow intensifying. Ignorance is no shield, human. You have polluted the veiled steppes with your fragrance. You will be purified. He felt a jolt of alarm. Purified? Is that a euphemism for sacrificed? Because I'm really not in the mood for a spontaneous religious experience. She took another step, then another. Your kind is known. Soft, easily broken, yet resilient. This is the truth of your stain. She extended a hand, long, elegant fingers tipped with razor-sharp talons, and gestured towards the mangled pod. Your vessel is defiled, its life force spent. Zo2 will be yours, if you resist the claiming. Kale scoffed, though his blood ran cold. Claiming? Look, sweetheart, I appreciate the interest, but I'm not really looking to get claimed by some space cultist. My dance card's full. A flicker of something, amusement or curiosity, passed through her glowing eyes. Your words are discordant. Dance card? A ritual of copulation, perhaps? You are prepared to offer your body an appeasement? He stared. What? No, it's just a phrase. It means I'm busy, like occupied, not available for whatever claiming you're talking about. She moved with impossible speed then, a blur of iridescent scales and raw power. Before he could react, she was in front of him, her hand slamming against the mangled door of his escape pod, a heavy crunch echoing through the twilight. He flinched, startled by the sudden violence, by the sheer force of her. "This, Doker shut," she rumbled, her voice a low growl, her face mere inches from his, those glowing eyes burning into his soul. "It is your defiance, your attempt to seal away the inevitable. But the steps do not yield, neither do I." He stumbled back, the scent of ozone and something wild, musky, filling his nostrils. His hand went to his gut, where a sharp piece of shrapnel from the crash still lodged, throbbing with a dull ache. "What the fuck are you talking about?" he spat, trying to keep his voice steady. His mind raced, calculating odds. 0, zip, nada. This creature, whatever she was, radiated power. Every instinct screamed, "Run," but there was nowhere to go. The magnetic desert stretched endlessly. "Look, I crashed. I didn't mean to trespass. Can we just call it an accident? I'll go. You can have your goddamn dirt." She moved closer, circling him slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. Her movements were fluid, almost liquid, a dance of muscle and bone under shifting dark scales. "Accident?" she purred, the sound a low vibration that made his skin prickle. "There are no accidents on the veiled steps. Only destiny, only the will of the ancestors." She stopped in front of him again, her head tilted, those glowing eyes locking onto his. "Your crash." It was foretold. A mail, unmarked, delivered unto the Maiden of the Veil during the twin cycle. "It is the time of the blood claim." He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert wind. Blood claim? That sounds unpleasant, and probably messy. He tried to sidle away, but she mirrored his movement, cutting off his escape. "Unpleasant for the weak, messy for the unwilling," she corrected, a hint of something sharp and dangerous in her tone. "But a sacred union for the strong. You are to be tested." He forced a laugh, a dry, humorless sound. "Tested? What, like a pop quiz? Because I really suck at those, especially when the subject is ancient alien mating rituals." Her lips curved slightly, a predatory smile that somehow made her even more alluring, even more terrifying. "A pop quiz. You amuse me, human. A curious trait for one destined to become mine," he choked. "Mine? Whoa, hold on. I am not yours. I'm a free man, or a free-ish man, currently stranded." She extended a hand again, her talons gleaming. He braced himself, expecting a strike. Instead, she merely traced a line down his chest, just above his heart. A shocking spark of static electricity, of something deeper, flared between them, making him gasp. "Your freedom is an illusion here," she murmured, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper. "The steps claim all who step upon them. And I, the Valen of the Whispering Sands, claim you. For purification, for union." He stood frozen, the phantom touch still burning his skin. "Valen of the Whispering Sands. Is that your title, or are you just giving me a really dramatic pickup line?" Her eyes narrowed. "A pickup line? Is this another one of your species' strange rituals of precoital verbal jousting?" He snorted. "Something like that, yeah. Usually involves less talk of blood claims and more, buying drinks." "Drinks," she echoed, the word a foreign sound on her tongue. "A liquid offering? Is this a part of your mating ritual to intoxicate the female before penetration?" Kale's jaw dropped. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, no, not even close. It's just a social thing, a prelude, not a pre-penetration thing." He felt a blush creep up his neck. This was going from bad to worse and somehow sexually awkward. "Your customs are crude," she stated, her gaze intense, as if dissecting every nuance of his embarrassment. "But your reactions are telling. You blush, your heart rate elevates. You are stimulated by the prospect of this pickup line and my claiming. Your body speaks of desire, even as your words attempt to deny it." He gritted his teeth. "My body speaks of fuck off, you crazy alien. That's what it says." Her smile widened, a flash of white, sharp teeth. "No, it screams of anticipation. Come, the elders await. They must witness the start of the purification." He wanted to argue, to fight, but the sheer, raw power radiating off her was overwhelming. He was a survivor, and sometimes survival meant not pissing off the apex predator, especially when she looked like she could snap him in half without breaking a sweat. Elders? Great. More cultists. Can't this just be a private thing between us? Maybe we skip the ritual and just, I don't know, shake hands and agree to disagree. She simply turned, her movements lithe, and began to walk deeper into the magnetic dunes, her form a beacon of iridescence in the gathering dusk. Follow, human, or be dragged. He considered his options. Running meant a slow, agonizing death in the desert, probably caught and tortured. Following meant, well, he wasn't sure, but at least there was a possibility of survival, however slim. He limped after her, cursing every decision that led him to this desolate, insane rock. The wound in his side throbbed. This was going to be a long night, or maybe his last. The dust storm picked up, swirling around them, a dizzying maelstrom of red particles that clung to Kale's clothes and rasped in his throat. He followed the alien, the Valen, as she navigated the treacherous terrain with effortless grace. She was a ghost in the storm, her iridescent scales occasionally flashing through the crimson haze. He stumbled, slipping on loose rock, his injured side flaring with pain. Hey, could you maybe slow down? I'm kind of, injured. And human, not built for sand surfing. She didn't stop, but a low, throaty sound, like a purr of amusement, vibrated through the air. Your weakness is a measure of your worth, human. Struggle. It strengthens the spirit. He just grunted. Yeah, well, my spirit's strong enough. My knee, not so much. He kept moving, the fear gnawing at him. He needed a plan, fast, escape. He scanned the horizon, but there was nothing but endless dunes and jagged spires. No ships, no signs of civilization. He was utterly alone with her. As they delved deeper into the magnetic desert, the spires grew taller, forming natural canyons and winding passages. The air grew heavy, charged with a strange energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He felt a thrumming in his bones, a low frequency that hummed with the pulse of the ancient world. So these elders, he ventured, trying to sound casual, what exactly do they do? Are they like the official witnesses to the claiming? Do they provide snacks? She paused at the mouth of a dark, narrow passage, turning to face him. Her glowing eyes seemed to pierce the swirling dust. They bear witness to the ritual. They ensure the sanctity of the blood claim. As for snacks, their sustenance is the essence of the steps, not your fleshy offerings. Her gaze lingered on his body, a slow, appraising look that made his skin crawl with a mix of dread and something else, a strange, undeniable flicker of arousal. Damn it. He needed to get his head straight. Right. No snacks? Got it. The passage opened into a vast, cavernous space, a natural amphitheater carved into the heart of the rock. The air here was still, thick with the scent of ozone and something ancient, metallic. Strange glowing symbols were etched into the rock walls, pulsing with a faint, rhythmic light that cast long, dancing shadows. And at the far end, arrayed in a semicircle, were the elders. They were old, impossibly old, their forms cloaked in dark, heavy robes. Their faces were weathered, etched with patterns that seemed to shift in the low light, their eyes dull, yet somehow piercing. They hummed, a low, collective drone that vibrated through the very stone beneath his feet. Well, this is no cozy, Kyle muttered, his voice echoing in the vast space. Looks like the annual cult convention. Did I miss the memo? The Valen ignored his sarcasm, her gaze fixed on the elders. She moved forward, leading him into the center of the cavern. As they approached, the humming intensified, and the air grew colder, heavy with expectation. Elders, the Valen said, her voice dropping to a tone of reverence Kale hadn't heard before. The unmarked mail has been delivered. The prophecy unfolds. One of the elders, a gaunt figure with a head that seemed too large for its body, extended a hand, its fingers long and spindly. A single glowing orb floated from its palm, drifting slowly towards Kale. He tensed, ready to dodge. Whoa, easy there, Grandpa. What's that thing? The Valen moved in front of him, blocking the orb with her own body. He is ignorant of the sacred eye, elders. Forgive his lack of reverence. She turned to Kyle, her eyes blazing. This is the orb of knowing. It will reveal your suitability. Kyle scoffed. Suitability for what? Sacrifice? Mating? Both? The Valen's lips thinned. For the ritual. You have questioned the sacred path. You have defied my claiming. The orb will show if you are worthy of this union or if you are merely a husk for the cleansing fire. He felt a primal dread. Cleansing fire. That didn't sound like a fun way to spend a Tuesday. All right, he said, holding up his hands. No need for fire. What do I have to do? Flex, sing a song? I can do a mean rendition of Free Bird if you want. The Valen's eyes flared with renewed intensity. Your attempts at levity are quaint, but the moment of truth approaches. The orb will seek the resonance. It will determine if your spirit can truly bind with mine. He felt the orb draw closer, a cold, probing presence. He closed his eyes for a moment, steeling himself. This is it, Kyle. Either you get lucky, or you get incinerated. When he opened them, the Valen was watching him, her expression unreadable. Prepare yourself, human, she whispered, her voice low, almost a growl. The blood claim demands absolute surrender and absolute strength. The orb of knowing pulsed, a vibrant inner light that thrummed with ancient power, settling directly in front of Kale's chest. He felt an invasive chill, like an ice shard probing his very soul. He swallowed hard. Okay, so what exactly is suitability here? Like, do I have to be compatible genetically? Or is it more of a personality test? Because I'm a bit of a dick. The Valen's gaze remained fixed on the orb, her profile sharp, defined by the glowing light. It is a test of spirit, of resonance. The orb will read your inner fire. If it is too weak, too discordant, the cleansing fire awaits. If it matches, then the claiming may proceed. Her voice held a note of something Kale couldn't quite decipher. Anticipation, perhaps, or a subtle predatory hunger. The elder's humming intensified, a cacophony of low, resonant tones that vibrated through the cavern, pressing in on him, making his teeth ache. He felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the orb was stripping away his very essence. It felt like every regret, every mistake, every fear he'd ever held was being laid bare. His guilt about his last job, about the people he'd left behind, about the risks he'd taken, it all flashed before his eyes. He squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, trying to reassert some control, some privacy. He heard the Valen's voice, closer now. What do you hide, human? What shadows cling to your spirit? He opened his eyes. She was right in front of him, her glowing gaze boring into his. Nothing you need to worry about, alien. Just a regular guy with regular baggage. Her hand, cold and smooth, touched his cheek. Your baggage. It is heavy, but it burns with a strange intensity. A fire of regret, of determination. It is suitable. He blinked. Regret? Determination? You get all that from a floating crystal ball and a touch? She chuckled, a low, throaty sound that resonated deep in his chest. The orb reveals. The touch confirms. Your spirit is complex, unlike the simple beasts we usually test. Then, without warning, the Valen gripped his hand, her talons surprisingly gentle. A sharp, stinging pain erupted as she pricked her thumb with one of her talons. Then, before he could react, she pressed it against his, drawing a bead of his own blood from his shrapnel wound. The two drops mingled, a dark, rich crimson, then shimmered and vanished, absorbed into their joined skin. A jolt, like pure lightning, tore through him. His vision flared white. A rush of sensation, overwhelming and raw, slammed into him. Her memories, her power, her sheer alienness. He saw flashes of ancient rituals, of barren magnetic landscapes, of battles fought with impossible ferocity. He felt her hunger, her dominance, her unwavering certainty. It was a dizzying, terrifying cascade of pure alien will, and through it all, a strange, undeniable thread of connection, of recognition. Then it was gone, leaving him breathless, trembling. He felt different, changed. The world seemed sharper, colors more vibrant, the air thrumming with a newfound energy. The Valen's eyes were wide, glowing even brighter, an expression of shock and something akin to awe on her face. The resonance. It is absolute, she whispered, her voice laced with wonder. The blood claim is accepted. The ancestors have chosen. You are mine. The elder's humming swelled into a triumphant roar, shaking the very foundations of the cavern. He stared at her, still reeling from the psychic assault, from the shared blood. Chosen. What the hell was that? What did you just do? She reached out, her hand tracing the faint, shimmering mark on his palm where their blood had merged. The bond is struck, human. Your spirit has intertwined with mine. You are now tethered to me, to the steps, for eternity. Kyle felt a surge of panic. Tethered? Eternity? Like permanently? What about my ship, my life, my escape plan? She smiled, a soft, almost tender expression that was utterly at odds with her previous ferocity. There is no escape, only union. The ritual has begun. You are now my mate. His mind screamed. Mate? No, 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 this wasn't part of the plan. This was way, way beyond his pay grade. Mate, we just met. This is moving a little fast, don't you think? There's not even a, hey, how about dinner phase? Her eyes glowed with a feral intensity. The claiming required consummation, to seal the bond, to complete the ritual. Now. She gripped his arm, pulling him closer, her strength effortless. Her body pressed against his, surprisingly warm, and the scent of ozone and musk filled his senses, intoxicating and primal. He felt a desperate urge to fight, to pull away, but his body, still humming from the psychic jolt, felt strangely heavy, almost willing. His breath hitched as her hand moved, trailing down his side, lingering on the shrapnel wound. Your pain. It adds to the intensity. It sharpens the bond. You will yield. Your body will welcome mine. And despite himself, despite the danger, a hot flush spread through him. A traitorous thrill. God damn it, Kale. Don't be a cliché. But her touch, her power, her raw, alien magnetism was undeniable. He felt himself teetering on the edge, about to fall into something vast and unknowable. His mind screamed for resistance, for the fight, but his body, hot and humming from the psychic impact, felt like a traitor. Her hand moved lower, tracing the line of his hip, then his thigh, her touch igniting a trail of fire. The low, guttural hum from the elders filled the cavern, a rhythmic thrum that seemed to align with the frantic beat of his own heart. Yield, human, the Valen whispered, her voice a low growl, her face inches from his. Her luminous eyes burned into his, consuming him, stripping away his last vestiges of defiance. The bond demands it. The ancestors demand it. And my body demands it. She pulled him closer, pressing her body fully against his. He could feel the cool, smooth planes of her scales, the surprising warmth radiating from her, the raw, coiled power beneath her skin. The scent of ozone and something wild, musky, filled his head, intoxicating him, blurring the edges of his sanity. He felt a groan escape his throat, a sound he hadn't intended. His hands, without conscious thought, found purchase on her narrow waist, his fingers curling against the supple firmness of her flesh. She was exquisite, utterly alien and devastatingly beautiful. This is insane, he managed to choke out, his voice hoarse, ragged. We just bled on each other. This isn't how humans do bonding. Her lips, soft and surprisingly tender, brushed against his. Your ways are slow. Our bond is immediate, primal. It demands completion. Her hand slid from his thigh, moving upward, tracing the hard line of his abdomen, then his chest, before coming to rest over his hammering heart. He felt her fingers surprisingly strong, then a feather-light brush of her talons against his shirt, and a soft, tearing sound. The fabric parted, revealing his skin beneath. He gasped as her palm pressed flat against his chest, right over his heart, and a shocking surge of pure, raw heat flooded his system. It wasn't just physical. It was a deeper current, sinking with his pulse, racing through his veins like liquid fire. He felt a sudden, intense craving, a desperate, animalistic need that roared to life within him, overriding all reason. He couldn't think, couldn't breathe. He could only feel. Her other hand went to his head, her fingers tangling in his hair, tilting his head back. Her glowing eyes held his captive, promises and threats swirling in their depths. Your body recognizes the claiming human. Your blood sings for mine. There is no more denial, only acceptance. Her lips found his then, A slow, deliberate press that sent shivers through him. Her mouth was soft yet firm, tasting of ozone and something earthy, alien. He felt a jolt of something primal, something ancient, when her tongue flicked out, a quick darting probe exploring his mouth. He groaned a deep guttural sound and pulled her closer, his hands gripping her waist fiercely, desperate for more contact. All thoughts of escape, of resistance, dissolved into the raw, urgent need that was consuming him. Her purr deepened, rumbling against his lips, and she pressed her hips against his, leaving no doubt about her intentions. He felt the firm, alien contours of her body, and his own responded with a fierce, demanding erection. He was rock hard, throbbing, aching for her. "Oh God," he muttered against her lips, his voice thick with desire. You're going to be the death of me." She broke the kiss, her eyes half-lidded, a feral, triumphant glint in their depths. "No, human. I will be your life, your new existence, your purification." She lowered her head, her lips brushing against his neck, then his shoulder, sending goosebumps rippling across his skin. He felt the sharp, exquisite nip of her teeth against his collarbone, not breaking the skin, but a clear, possessive claim. Her body shifted, pressing him back against one of the glowing, etched pillars of the cavern, pinning him. The cold, hard stone against his back was a sharp contrast to the scorching heat of her body. Her legs, surprisingly strong, parted his, and he felt the unmistakable press of her alien warmth against his aching erection. He gasped, a guttural sound torn from his throat. This was it, the point of no return. His mind, what little was left of it, screamed for him to run, but his body was roaring for her, for the release, for the dangerous, intoxicating connection that was pulling him under. He arched into her, a desperate plea, and she responded, her hips grinding against his, a slow, sensual rhythm that drove him wild. "Yes," she whispered, her voice husky with desire, a low, animalistic growl. "Surrender, human. Let the claiming take you." Her body pressed hard against his, the soft, firm curves of her hips grinding against him, sending fresh waves of pure agony and ecstasy through his already frayed senses. He was a trembling mess, his rational mind screaming danger, while his body begged for deeper contact. The elder's humming grew louder, a deep, resonant chant that vibrated through the very air, surrounding them, amplifying the raw, carnal energy pulsing between them. He felt himself losing control, teetering on the edge of a precipice he had no hope of escaping. Her hands, strong and sure, moved to the buckle of his trousers, her talons scraping lightly against the metal. With a soft click, it unfastened, and she deftly pushed the fabric down, her fingers brushing against the hardened length of him. He gasped, a raw, ragged sound, as her touch, cool and alien, slid along his erection. The sheer intensity of the sensation was overwhelming, a burning ache that demanded release. "Beautiful," she purred, her voice low and husky, her luminous eyes fixed on him, a predatory glint in their depths. "Your form, it is strange, yet potent." She lowered herself slightly, her hips rotating, and the head of his erection pressed against her, hot and slick. He felt the unique alien contours of her, the perfect, unbelievable fit. "Oh God," he choked out, his voice barely a whisper, his hands fisting in the fabric of her shoulder guard, desperate for purchase. "Please." She took his plea, not as a desperate call for release, but as a command. With a powerful, fluid thrust, she lowered herself fully onto him. A sharp, burning sensation, then a glorious, mind-numbing stretch enveloped him. He cried out, a guttural roar that echoed in the vast cavern, a primal sound torn from his very soul. She was tight, incredibly tight, a searing, all-consuming heat that threatened to liquefy his bones. He felt the delicate yet strong grip of her muscles clenching around him, pulling him deeper, drawing him into her, into the very core of her alien being. He was completely, utterly engulfed. He closed his eyes, his head falling back against the cold stone pillar, as she began to move, a slow, deliberate rock of her hips, a primal, ancient rhythm that was both punishing and exquisitely pleasurable. Each thrust sent waves of sensation through him, pushing him closer to the brink. Her scent, that intoxicating mix of ozone and musk, filled his lungs, clouding his mind, drawing him deeper into the swirling vortex of pure sensation. He felt himself losing all sense of self, becoming nothing more than a vessel for this raw, unbridled act of primal union. She leaned down, her face close to his, her glowing eyes locked onto his, demanding his full attention, demanding his surrender. "This is the claiming, human," she whispered, her voice thick with her own rising desire, a triumphant note underscoring each word. "Your essence flows into mine. My power merges with yours. We are one." And as she said it, he felt it. A deeper psychic connection, a merging of their very consciousness like two rivers finally flowing into one. He felt a dizzying rush of her emotions, her fierce dominance, her ancient pride, her desperate need for this union, this completion, and beneath it all a fragile, almost hidden current of vulnerability, of loneliness that surprised him. He felt his own essence, his fear, his guilt, his desire being absorbed, accepted, claimed by her. It was terrifying, and utterly, perversely exhilarating. Her thrusts grew harder, faster, a relentless driving rhythm that pushed him further and further into the dizzying abyss. He could feel the pressure building, the glorious, unbearable pressure, coiling tighter and tighter within him. He was a taut spring stretched to its absolute limit on the verge of snapping. His breath came in ragged gasps, his body slick with sweat, every muscle strained. He felt the tremors begin deep within him, building into a powerful, uncontrollable quake. "Yes," he gasped, his voice raw, pleading. "Now, please, now." Her eyes widened, a primal understanding flashing within their depths, reflecting his desperate need. Her hips arched, a final powerful thrust, and he felt the glorious, violent release erupt within her, a blinding, all-consuming wave of pure sensation. He cried out her name, or what he thought was her name, a guttural roar of pure, unadulterated pleasure, and something akin to a primal understanding of her. And as he climaxed, a powerful, shuddering orgasm that shook him to his core, he felt a sharp, exquisite sting on his inner thigh. He gasped, his body still convulsing as a searing heat spread through his flesh. When he looked down, he saw it, a new mark, still glowing faintly, etched into his skin. An intricate, swirling pattern of bioluminescent lines, mirroring the markings on her own body. A claiming mark, a permanent declaration of ownership. He was hers, completely. The Valen gasped, her own body arching, trembling as her climax tore through her. A soft, trilling sound, like a broken melody, escaped her lips. Her grip on him tightened, crushing him against her, as if to absorb him whole. "Mine," she whispered, her voice thick with satisfied triumph, a possessive growl. "You are mine, and the mark, it seals the truth." The Valen collapsed against him, her body heavy and sated, her breathing ragged. The psychic hum, which had built to a deafening roar during their union, now receded to a gentle thrumming, vibrating through his bones. He felt utterly spent, physically and emotionally drained, yet also something new, a strange, undeniable sense of profound connection. The mark on his thigh pulsed faintly, a warm, tingling sensation, reminding him of what had just transpired. He was marked, claimed. His life as he knew it was irrevocably changed. The elders, previously a chorus of booming approval, now fell silent, their forms still and watchful in the dim, glowing cavern. Their collective gaze, he felt, was fixed not just on the Valen, but on him. He was no longer just a trespasser. He was part of something ancient and alien. He pushed himself up slightly, supporting the Valen's weight. She stirred, her glowing eyes slowly opening, fixing on his. There was a vulnerability there now, a softness that hadn't been present before. The savage empress seemed human in a way, or perhaps he was just projecting. What now?" he asked, his voice raw. "That mark, what does it mean?" She pushed herself up, a graceful, fluid movement, and he felt the absence of her warmth, an immediate, aching void. Her fingers traced the bioluminescent pattern on his thigh. "It means the bond is complete," she said, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "It means you are bound to me, to the steps. Your blood is now intertwined with mine, human. You are family. You are my mate. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and he saw a flash of something akin to awe, to recognition in her eyes. Your spirit, it is strong, even with your baggage. You did not break under the resonance. You did not resist the claiming, not truly. You surrendered. You are worthy. Worthy. He scoffed, a wry, humorless sound. Worthy of what? Being kidnapped and turned into an alien baby daddy? This is not exactly how I pictured my retirement. She tilted her head, a hint of her previous amusement returning. Your retirement is irrelevant. Your purpose has been revealed. You are to serve the steps. To serve me. To reproduce. Kyle stared. Reproduce? Hold on a goddamn minute. We just had sex once. That doesn't mean I'm signing up for a lifetime of alien child support. A low growl erupted from the entrance of the cavern, deep and resonant, a sound that made the very air vibrate. It wasn't the elders. It was something else, something dangerous. The Valen's expression hardened instantly, the vulnerability vanishing, replaced by a fierce, protective glint. Intruders, she hissed, her eyes narrowing. The Watchers. They have come, and they seek to sever the new bond. Kale's smuggler instincts flared. Watchers? Who are they? More of your cultist friends? She rose to her full height, her form shimmering with power, her scales catching the faint glow of the cavern walls. They are the ancient blood cult, she snarled, her voice laced with venom. They seek to prevent the true claiming. They believe only their bloodlines are pure enough to unite with the steps. They will try to kill you, human. To tear out your heart and sever the bond before it can fully set. His blood ran cold. Of course. Just when he thought things couldn't get any weirder or more dangerous. Great. So my first official act as your mate is to fight off a bunch of homicidal blood freaks? She turned to him, her glowing eyes intense, a challenging gleam in their depths. You are marked. You are claimed. This is your first trial, human. To defend the bond. To prove your worth beyond mere surrender. He looked at the exit, then back at her. The elders were still silent, watchful. Outside, the low growl deepened, accompanied by the metallic clang of heavy footfalls. They were coming. He still felt the lingering high from their mating, a strange mix of exhaustion and raw power. The mark on his thigh throbbed. He was in deep, deeper than he'd ever been. All right, Valen, he said, pushing himself to his feet, ignoring the throbbing pain in his side. He managed a grim, sarcastic smile. Looks like I'm committed. Just tell me one thing. Do these ancient blood cultists bleed? Because I'm about to give them a very intimate, very painful lesson in why you don't interrupt a man's post-coital glow. She met his gaze, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of respect, perhaps even something warmer in her eyes. They bleed, human, and they will fall. Come, defend what is now yours. Defend us. The ground vibrated with approaching footsteps, heavy and rhythmic, echoing ominously through the cavern. Kyle gripped the broken control stick, its jagged edges digging into his palm, but it was all he had. The Valen moved with swift, deadly grace, retrieving a gleaming, curved blade from a hidden sheath on her back. It hummed with a low, predatory energy, reflecting the faint light from the etched walls. Stay behind me, human, she commanded, her voice low and fierce. Their blades are coated in null poison. It severs the bond, and then the life. He scoffed, though his gut was churning. Null poison. So if I get cut, I go from alien husband to dead alien meat? Good to know. He adjusted his stance, trying to look less like a smuggler with a shrapnel wound and more like a hardened fighter. Any chance you've got a spare blade? Or maybe a blaster? I'm more of a projectile guy, less of a get up close and personal with a maniacal cultist guy. She glanced at him, a flicker of something unreadable in her glowing eyes. Your reliance on distance weaponry is a weakness. True warriors meet their threats with tooth and claw. The first of the cultists appeared in the entrance, a hulking figure cloaked in dark, blood-stained robes, their face obscured by a grotesque, horned mask. It held a wickedly barbed spear, its tip glinting in the low light. More followed, a wave of silent, menacing figures. The air grew heavy with a palpable sense of malice. Speak for yourself, tooth and claw, Kyle muttered, eyeing the spear. I prefer to keep my teeth in my head. The Valen surged forward, a blur of iridescent scales and lethal grace. Her blade moved with impossible speed, a silver arc in the dim light striking the cultist's spear with a resonant clang. Sparks flew. The cultist grunted, surprised by her ferocity, but its comrades advanced, closing in. Kale knew he had to move. He was no fighter, but he wasn't going to just stand there and watch her die. Not after everything. He spotted a loose piece of rock, jagged and heavy, near his feet. He scooped it up, his injured side protesting, and threw it with all his might at the nearest cultist's masked head. It struck with a dull thump. The cultist staggered, giving the Valen a crucial opening. She exploited it instantly, her blade flashing, and the cultist roared, a gurgling sound as it fell. "Hey, Valen," Kale yelled, dodging a sweeping attack from another cultist. "Looks like I'm good for distractions. You do the fancy moves." She glanced back at him, her eyes burning with a fierce intensity. "Your distractions are effective, but unnecessary. Their blood will purify this sacred space." She spun, her blade a dizzying dance of death, parrying, striking, moving with a fluid power that was hypnotic to watch. The cultists, despite their numbers, struggled to match her speed. Kale ducked under a wild swing, feeling the wind of the blade on his face, and scrambled backward, looking for another rock, anything. His eyes darted to the glow of the orb of knowing, still floating serenely in the center of the cavern. An idea, desperate and insane, sparked in his mind. "Valen!" he shouted, pointing to the orb. "Can that thing be weaponized? Does it have a stun setting?" She parried a blow that would have cleaved her in two, pushing the cultist back with an almost contemptuous strength. "The orb is for knowing, human, not for combat." "Well, what about knowing how to zap these bastards?" he yelled back, running towards the orb. The cultist's attention now split between him and her. He knew this was a long shot, but he had to try something beyond throwing rocks. He reached the orb, its light pulsing faintly. He touched it, feeling the familiar, jarring psychic jolt from their mating ritual. Memories flooded his mind again. Not just hers, but flashes of the Elder's knowledge, of the ancient magic of the steppes. He saw images of magnetic fields, of energy manipulation, of resonance. He focused, willing the orb to respond, to amplify. He thought of her raw power, of the ancient energies that hummed through this very ground. He felt a surge of energy, hot and overwhelming, rush from the orb through his hand and into his body. He cried out, not in pain, but in sheer raw exertion, as a wave of pure, concentrated magnetic force erupted from him, washing over the cultists. They shrieked, their metal weapons tearing from their grasp, flying backwards to slam against the cavern walls with deafening clangs. Their bodies convulsed, their grotesque masks shattering as they were slammed against the rock, stunned, disoriented. The Valen paused, her blade mid-swing, her eyes wide with shock as she witnessed his unexpected display of power. He was panting, trembling, sweat stinging his eyes, but a fierce, triumphant grin spread across his face. "Turns out," he gasped, "this baggage has some hidden features, Valen." She stared at him, her lips parted slightly, her eyes glowing with an intensity that went beyond simple battle focus. There was something new there, a profound respect, an undeniable attraction. The last of the cultists lay twitching, momentarily incapacitated by the magnetic blast. The cavern was silent save for their ragged breathing and the faint hum of the orb. You wielded the steppes' power," she whispered, her voice laced with awe. "You are truly worthy, human. More than worthy." He met her gaze, his own breath still coming in ragged gasps. He was exhausted, but a profound, undeniable shift had occurred. He wasn't just her mate. He was a force to be reckoned with, and he had just saved her in his own clumsy human way. "Yeah," he said, letting the orb's power recede, feeling the sudden fatigue wash over him. "Guess I'm full of surprises." Now about that lifetime of alien child support. The Valen stood before him, her blade still clutched in her hand, but her posture had softened. The raw ferocity was still there, a core of unyielding power, but now it was tempered by something else, an almost hesitant vulnerability, a dawning understanding. The glow in her eyes seemed less predatory, more reflective. The cultists, though incapacitated, were beginning to stir, groaning faintly against the stone walls. They wouldn't be down for long. Your power. It resonates with the ancestors, she said, her voice low, almost reverent. You did not merely bond with me, human. You communed with the very spirit of the steppes. This has not happened in 1,000 cycles. He shrugged, wincing as the movement pulled at his injured side. Yeah, well, I'm full of surprises. Didn't realize I had ancient alien spirit conduit on my resume. But here we are. He looked around at the downed cultists. So what do we do with these guys? More purification with the orb? She shook her head. They will be contained. Their misguided fervor will be redirected. The claiming has already done its work. The steppes have chosen a new path. She walked towards him, her movements fluid and deliberate, and stopped directly in front of him. Her hand, the one that had held the formidable blade, reached out and gently touched his cheek. Her touch, so often forceful, was now feather-light, almost tender. You saved me, human. You chose to defend the bond even when you could have fled, even when you did not understand. He met her gaze, a weary but honest smile playing on his lips. What can I say? I'm a stubborn son of a bitch, and running from a pissed-off alien empress in disguise is a lot harder than just standing my ground and making things worse. He paused. Besides, I figured if I was going to be claimed, might as well make sure the claimer lived to tell the tale. A soft, almost shy smile touched her lips. A rare, beautiful sight. Your sarcasm, it is still foreign, but your actions, they speak of loyalty, of a deep, unyielding strength. She lowered her gaze, her hand still on his cheek. I underestimated you, Kale of the human lands. I sought to dominate, to claim by right of power. But you claimed me too, with your defiance, with your unexpected spirit, with your pop quiz of a mind. He felt a warmth spread through him, not from the orb, but from her words, from the raw, unvarnished honesty in her voice. Yeah, well, you surprised me too, Valen of the Whispering Sands. For a terrifying, all-powerful alien empress, you're surprisingly nuanced, and you really know how to make an entrance. He reached up, his hand covering hers on his cheek. So, mate, he said, testing the word on his tongue. It felt strange, foreign, yet not entirely wrong. What's next for us? More cultist fights? Or do we finally get that dinner you misunderstood? Her eyes, still glowing, met his, a new light in their depths, a spark of anticipation, of shared future. The elders will convene. The truth of the new bond must be broadcast across the veiled steppes. You will be presented as my chosen, my consort. He blinked. Consort? Sounds pretty official. Does it come with a benefits package? Like a ship that actually flies? She chuckled, a soft, rich sound that made his chest vibrate. Perhaps. But first, we will ensure these cultists are dealt with. Then, we will find a more private space for true communion, for deeper understanding of our nuances. Her gaze dropped to his lips, and a familiar primal spark ignited between them. And perhaps, she murmured, her voice husky with renewed desire, your dinner involves more than just food. The bond, it still calls for more exploration. He grinned, a genuine, tired but triumphant smile. Now that sounds like a plan, Valen. Much better than a cleansing fire. He leaned in, closing the distance between them, and kissed her. It was a kiss of exhaustion, of survival of a strange, unforeseen future. Her lips were soft, willing, and he felt the deep, undeniable hum of their bond reverberate between them. This was just the beginning. His ship was gone. His life, utterly derailed, but he was alive, and he was claimed, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a strange, terrifying yet exhilarating sense of purpose. A smuggler, a wreck survivor, now an alien consort. He truly was full of surprises, and it seemed so was she.